Hello and welcome everyone. I hope everyone is well and fine. Yeah, today we are casting upon many pages, and I'd be a good shout out to DNTV, NEPS, Med Rejects, Beyond Dimensions, Parapost. Yeah, so I hope everyone is well, especially on Easter weekend. Today I am going to bring on very shortly Jesse. When it comes to questions and answers and stuff, there will be displayed, but there will be a bit of a delay due to StreamYard's, obviously doing some strange happenings in back. So yeah, there's going to be a slight delay with me putting your answers and your questions up. So yeah, I'm going to bring in Jesse. Hiya, Jesse.
Hi, Philip. Hi, everyone. Yes, I hope you're all having a wonderful Easter weekend. Weather here in Normandy is great. It is just summer all over. And congratulations, Philip, on your going global. You're just everywhere. That's good.
Yes, yeah. Like I say, it's good to cast on these many different pages, and hopefully, obviously, people start to enjoy what we're doing here. Um,
Great.
Before we start, we've got some people in the background. Hiya, Annette. We've got Kirsty. Hello, Kirsty. And we have got Sue Cook. Yeah, so Jesse, what is today's subject topic?
Today's subject is progress. Hi, everyone. Yeah, today is progress that is not actually progress. Progress is a lie, as the title says. I'm going to explain and maybe to share experiences with you, and maybe you will have experiences to share with us too, or questions, or whatever you feel you'd like to say or share with us. How we're not actually progressing. We are taught, we're educated in the idea that we are progressing. In fact, we're not progressing at all. We're doing much worse than that. Everything we are taught about progress is actually wrong. It's actually a lie for most of it, and I will explain it. And then when I was 30, when I was young, there was a lot of people said, "Oh yes, but this is not scientifically proved, or this was scientifically proved, or etc." And by the time I got to being 30, so that was 31 years ago, I got to work with a lot of engineers, and I asked them what their thoughts were on the matter as to whether we could actually scientifically prove or not prove or disprove something. And the first thing they told me is that people who talk like that are not scientists, because scientists do not claim, real genuine scientists will never claim that they have proved anything one way or another. But what is actually proved scientifically speaking is that if you can reproduce something in the same conditions, sorry, a number of times, and in the same way, then you can say so far so good, and so far we can say that E is mc squared, for example, until proved wrong. And that is what is really progress. Now, I have long been a believer now that our educational system is completely off its rocker, and we should actually change all the teaching, not only, but all the teaching materials, school books, and you name it, manuals, and etc., and base all that on hard facts, because we are being taught a lot of nonsense. I'll give you an example, for example, which I saw on one Franco-German channel about 15 years ago. And the guy was saying that William the Conqueror, who was a Norman originally, when he moved over to England and he became King of England, after the Norman conquest, he had to learn to speak English because he was going to be the king of England, and he had to learn to speak English. The only trouble is, in the early 11th century, English did not exist for another 500 years. So I don't know what English he would have learned back then, because the language simply did not exist. And had it existed, that nobody would have spoken it anyway back then, because English really came into existence just before Shakespeare, Chaucer, even. Chaucer is already modern English. So that's going back a few hundred years. That is a lot of nonsense we are being educated with. And the guy who was saying this was a big university don, like your what's your name? And Oxford Dun, for example, saying this, which was complete nonsense. And the guy, was really proud of himself saying this and that. I thought, what a lot of nonsense. This was on a cultural channel, so these guys are supposed to really know their stuff and have done their homework, right? And the guy was like 65. He was not a kid or a young student fresh out of university or anything.
Sorry, Jess. Jess has got some microphone problems. So before he comes back on, I'm not stoned, trust me. I've got a big light shining back in front of me, and I've got an headache, and I've had 2 paracetamols, and they seem to be really, really taking effect. So yeah, I'm not stoned, trust me. Hopefully, Jesse's going to come back. He's got some internet problems. I'll just bring up what the net says, so when he comes back. Education today is how to stand in a line, ask no questions, and parrot what they're told. Yes, hopefully Jess is gonna answer that when he comes back on. Yeah, I think he's been experiencing some microphone problems. Hi, Amanda. I all just been on the Merry Sheriff. No, I've not had no alcohol whatsoever. I'm being here until 9 o'clock, basically. Hopefully, something must have gone wrong on his end. This is not looking good. Right, I've got to sort out another invitation. Don't know what's gone wrong there. It's my battleship that I'm in. It's taken it from some Klingons. Oh dear. Sorry about this, folks. There's some technical errors going off. And hopefully he's going to come back. Technology is a pain. It certainly is. I don't know whether people's been experiencing same as what I have, especially Virgin. Right, so Jess is back.
Yes, we got disconnected, and I had a message saying you had to invite me back in. So I'm back in.
Jesse, do you know your microphone? It seems to be very jolty. I'm just wondering if it needs putting in properly or.
No, everything seems okay this time. I don't know why. Microphone. No, microphone is working.
Let's see how it goes from here then.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, it's just sometimes it goes right croaky. It's like your microphone's either connection's a little bit loose or something. But we'll go from there.
I keep telling you, progress is a lie.
It is. So Annette was saying while you were off, education today is how to stand in a line and ask no questions and parrot what they are told.
Yeah, basically, Annette, yes, I'll go for that. This is what it is. But sadly, this is not the truth. I'm going to develop that in a moment. But this is not the truth at all. And we are continuing. It's like, suddenly you took the wrong exit. junction exit out of the motorway, and we're still running, and on that exit and going nowhere because there's nowhere to go when everything is based on a lie or on known facts or false facts or fake news. This is what we are getting all the time. We are not. I'm preparing another program on this. I've been working on it in Italian actually, so I'm going to do an English version about it soon as well. And this is the fact is that we're being told a lot of things, and we're not going. It's like you're trying to bake a cake, for example, and you have the wrong recipe. Now, your chocolate and banana cake, for example, is not a chocolate and banana cake if the recipe you're following is that one of a pizza, for example. All you're going to get in the end is a pizza, but you did not want a pizza in the first place. You wanted your chocolate and banana cake. You're not getting it, no matter how hard you work at it, because you're going in the wrong direction. This is exactly what we're following. Now, if I may just go on to where we left off, Philippe, or do we need to start all over again?
No, just where you left off, really, Jesse.
Yes, you're going to do the patching up then. Okay. Right. Thanks, Philip. So, like I was saying, when I was 30 and I was working with engineers, I asked them what was supposed to be scientifically proved or not, and then they explained me and they told me that it didn't work that way. And I started being in the training and coaching job most of my life, of my 35, 40 years, last 40 years, for most of it. I realized that the manuals we were using were completely wrong. And in the end, I thought, no, there is no way I can go on with this. So I asked my bosses and I said, what am I supposed to do about this? Because I disagree with it. This is not what people want, and this is not what they need. So my boss, who was at the time a woman called Beverly, with whom I worked, she said, "Oh, Jesse, I have every trust in you. Do what you please, no matter, I get nothing but good things about you back as feedback. So, just go your own way, and then I'm not worried about anything." So then, little by little, I started moving away from the material I was supposed to use, most of it being published by the two British biggest, most important, and greatest universities. And I thought, no, I can't abide by that. There is a better way of doing these things. And I started doing them my way. And they started working, and people enjoyed more and more. And I ended up writing my own books and using and selling my own books actually to my clients and students because I couldn't go. And then suddenly I was really relieved because it actually was coming down on me more and more as a lot of stress, and I was getting really, really stressed. I could see that people were not getting what they needed or what they wanted, and I had to tell things that I was in complete disagreement with. And I thought, no, it's not going to work like that. I am not like this, and I will not do this. So the minute I saw the exit junction, my exit junction, I thought, no, I'm out of here, and I'm going to do this my way. And I started really, really enjoying my job again because I was losing everything, all my job interest, and I really loved it before I started realizing that. And I said, no, I'm going to go for something different, which is what I did. We're not progressing. We are actually regressing. There are many, many things. The proof is, and Philip, we're going to show a couple of pictures of that in a minute. There are many, many things and more things that actually prove that we're not progressing. For example, I was reading this week that some research had been carried out by sound engineers and engineers in Newgrange, Ireland. Newgrange is not far from Dublin in Ireland, County Howth, and County Meath. Sorry, Irish listeners. Anyway. They actually carried out experiment there with sound, and they realized that it may be the case. I mean, nothing is sure as yet, but it may be proved soon that the place was actually a kind of sound temple. We don't know what for. Maybe it was a religious kind of thing at the time, or some technology we haven't fathomed and sort of sussed out yet. and they realized that using sound measuring equipment, the sound can transform into patterns, like designs, like drawings. And when they looked at those drawings, they were really amazed, because they realized that some of the drawings that are inside Newgrange are actually the same drawings the sounds produce.
Yeah.
And that is carved in hard stone. This is really, really strange. Now, I was about 4 years ago now, I was in Tehran, and outside Tehran, there's an amazing place. Nobody goes there because the tourist guides can't be bothered with showing these places, but it is really, really amazing. It's called Shah-e-Ray in Farsi, which is Ray City, as it were, in English. And it's an old Persian capital from the old Persian days. And there is a place there, which is a tower, which is octagonal. And when you go in there and you stand in the middle, the sound resonates exactly and carries really, really far away. There are temples in Malta as well that are similar, in fact, in design to Newgrange in Ireland. So this is on the first part of the mystery. The second part of the mystery is they could also be sound temples. Now, experiments have been carried out in there, and the fact is, if we were really progressing, we would understand what this is today. Trouble is, we don't, and in fact, we understand it less and less. Can we have a look at those pictures, Philip, if you have them with you? And I will try and see which one I wanted to show at this stage.
Yeah. The first one that I had on there, I'll show.
It's a round machine I wanted to show. Have you got that in the picture? An old machine, which is like,
Yeah.
it looks like an old clock, in fact. Have you got that with you?
Yeah. I'll 2 secs.
This one, yeah. So this was found off in the Mediterranean, off Antikyra, which is a Greek island.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is. It's very, very technologically developed. We don't know what it is. It's been cleaned a little, to the extent that could be cleaned, because of course this has been underwater for God knows how long. And Philip, you have another picture which shows a gold machine, which is a kind of a modern way of designing this.
Yeah.
Somebody tried to design it in a modern way. In my list, it was one of the last.
Yep.
It
I've
looks
got it.
like a clock again. Yeah, that one. Now, if it was done today, this is probably what it would look like. Only nobody knows what it is or what it is for. This is modern technology. This is just to show that we actually don't know what was done in the past. There are many, many examples I could give you. We are taught, for example, that dinosaurs were extinct before man roamed about the earth, which is completely wrong, because on the banks of Biloxi River, I think it's in Mississippi State in the U.S., somewhere around there in the U.S., either Mississippi or Colorado, or New Mexico, one of those southern states of the U.S. There is actually a dinosaur footprint and a man footprint next to it. And this could not have been forged, because this was actually under several layers of mud when it was discovered. So it's absolutely ancient. And we're being told that, that we never met. There is, if you go, for example, to Siem Reap in Cambodia, one of the temples there, now that temple was built 1,000 years ago, there is a statue on one of the walls of the temples that shows a dinosaur, a stegosaurus. Now, dinosaurs were not known until the 19th century, and that palace is 1,000 years old. So we're not progressing, because we should not be going that way. It's like we're going in reverse, in fact, and we're turning history backward. Now, there is another place. Now, let me say, yeah, can we go back to the pictures, Philip, please? Some of them are the walls.
Yeah.
You have there. One of them is of a big wall, a big picture of a big wall. Not this one. It's not this one. Can you flick
Yep.
through them from where you are?
I'll flip through 'em, yeah. 2 secs.
It's a very wide angle type of, not this one, wide angle type of picture of a landscape with a big wall. No, not this one again. No. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
It's other way.
Sorry, people. We had this. I had this organized. This one. Yeah, these two. I had this down to a T, but the internet wouldn't let us. Well, goes to show the internet is not progress. The internet wouldn't let Philip have my titling and my numbers. Can we have the next one after this, Philip, please? This one. Can you enlarge it, Philip, from where you are? No, great. A little bit more in the center. Now, yeah, great. If you look at the wall there to the left of the screen, you have a very ancient wall. This is Machu Picchu in Peru. This is 4,000 meters, that's 12,000 feet up in the mountains. And this is one of the buildings. Now, if you can enlarge the picture more, Philip, on that wall, if you could do that. Yeah, this one, a little more. Yeah, look at the technology that is there. Now, nobody builds walls like this. We haven't built walls like this for thousands of years. Now, we know, the only thing we know about these walls, and I'm going to show you a few more pictures, is that they actually resist earthquakes.
Ooh.
So should there be an earthquake there, the wall wouldn't budge. We don't know how, we don't know why. It looks really strange when you look at the shape of all these stones there. But what we know is that they would stand. Can we have the next picture, Philip, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at I will show you on another picture here. Keep going, Philip. Yeah, not this one. No, keep going. Yeah, keep going again. Again. Yeah, okay. Can you enlarge this one? Thank you, Philip. Thank you very much. Now, everyone, if you look at the big blocks at the bottom, these are the oldest stones. They are similar to the part I was showing you in the picture before. And if you look at the walls above the first lower bottom range there are more modern buildings. The design has changed already. Can you see that? And these were built on top of the others. I have seen, so this is more modern, the level 2 and level 3, as it were, there. You can
I'm actually looking at it, Jesse. It looks like these, that at bottom, the oldest ones you were mentioning,
yeah,
is actually constructed so they actually stay together for a long time. Where the ones above are mainly like in uniform, aren't they?
Yeah, they're more like the ones we have, and those are still in between, because if you go to Machu Picchu, and you look at top of the old walls, can you flick through the pictures, Philip? I have one further along. No, you can see that this one. Yeah, can you enlarge this? Yeah, more. Okay, can you look at the top of the walls there? They are much more modern, and in fact, because the people who built the upper walls there couldn't actually had lost the actual technology of the first ones, and the first ones are still there, the bottom ones, and the top ones are actually half demolished, as you can see there. I have seen walls like this again in Iran, in Iranian Kurdistan, where there are stones like this at the bottom and basically mud bricks at the top, because they tried to rebuild or continue building it from there and they couldn't do it. Now, the amazing thing about the Inca and the Maya who lived there is when the Spanish arrived, they said, oh, but how did you build these? And apparently they told them, we didn't build it. It was there when we arrived. We don't know how it was built. So can we have a couple more pictures then, Philip, please?
Yeah, bye.
If you can flick through those. Now, you see this one is really badly built. In fact, there are a lot of stones.
Yeah, they've just rammed everything in, haven't they?
Yeah, they're like they've been thrown on top of the wall. And again, if you look at the top of this picture, this is very, very modern. And this is what we consider ancient. Look at that. This is the wall you can have next door, your garden wall, which has nothing to do with the technology I was showing you. Can we have a couple more pictures, Philip, please, when you're ready? Yeah, this one is not actually as clear as I hope. Now, another one. Well, this one is not as clear as I hoped, actually. It doesn't come up very well on the screen. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Now, this is a real ancient wall. Look at the design. It's perfect. Now, these walls were built without one spot of cement. There is nothing between the stones. And the stones are so perfect, you couldn't run a sheet of paper through the stones because they fit in so well one with the others. And they've been there for God knows how long. I think they were there 12,000 years ago, and maybe even before that, before the pyramids even, probably. They are really, really ancient. It's an ancient technology. We don't know. Can we have some more pictures, Philip, please? I have a couple more. Yeah, this one. Look at this one.
See, yeah, it's kind of similar, but I've noticed, you know, the ones that you pointed out were those what don't move when an earthquake hits. That they've actually etched in squares.
Exactly.
Squares.
Some of these stones have got 12 sides per stone, and they all fit in perfectly. Now, we don't know what the kind of boulders that come out at the bottom of the three central stones there. We don't know what they're for. We don't know any. We cannot understand that. So we're, all that science, all those skills have been lost to times immemorial. Can we have some more pictures, Philip, please? I think I have a couple more. Now, this is really interesting. This is another place. This is in Bolivia. This is called Pumapunku. It's near Tiwanaku. And this is ancient. We don't know what it is. We don't know. It looks like it was molded. The stones all fit in one to the other like a kind of Lego game. They also sometimes nickname the Lego stones because they all fit in. Nobody understands who did that, when, why, what for. Nobody understands.
So a couple of people there are actually saying there it's right. So let's say master builders.
Oh, it's more. It takes more than master ship. There, we don't know. Yeah, Annette, in a sense, you're right.
It has a lintel beam.
Yes, but they're not doors. You cannot actually walk through them. They look like doors, but they're like doors that are like they're more like drawers, in fact, than doors, as it were, because they have a bottom or an end to them. It's really, really amazing. I think we have a couple more pictures of these, Philip, if you'd like to.
Yeah. Some people have actually said Stargate.
No, this is not a Stargate. No, we don't know. Many tests, we've seen that one. Yeah, this is another example. Can you see now that stone in the middle? I think this is the one that has 12 angles, 12 different angles. And it's really amazing. And it fits in perfectly with the others. And there is not one grain of cement between those stones.
I just find it fascinating how they've took the time of chiseling out through rocks to fit the others.
Well, in actual fact, it wasn't done like that. We know now a little bit more, like the building of the pyramids. They are actually molded. But why molded in those shapes? This is really strange.
Wow.
There's got to be something more to this that we don't. This is again Pumapunku and other parts of those stones. Now, the amazing thing about this site, which is really, really big, this is bigger than Stonehenge, this whole site, for the people who may know Stonehenge already. What was found out is that apparently those buildings there and those stones fell owing to oh gosh, what is the word? A tsunami, a tidal wave. Now, the only thing is, those stones are 3,000 meters, that's 9,000 feet up in the mountains.
Wow.
How could a tidal wave get there?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Nobody knows.
A really big tidal wave.
There are seashells and animal and a fish skeleton there in the ground around those places. Where do they come from? Nobody understands. There is a lake, but it's not on the site. It's on another site next to that. Can you show us a couple more pictures, Philip, please, when you're ready? I think I have a few more.
That's end of them.
Oh, maybe this is the end of it because.
So I'll just go through them.
Yeah, go through them. Yeah, we've seen that one. We've seen that one. That one. Yeah, yeah, yep. Yeah, we've seen that one, but this is not good enough to show on screen like this. Yeah, we've seen that one. We've seen that one.
That's
That one. I think we're done with pictures, Philip. For the yeah, but that was just a few examples, to illustrate what it is. I mean, if the for the people for those people who will have seen or listened to our shows on pyramids, for example, I already explained a lot of things, and now we cannot fathom what this is. And we're actually going more and more for high tech now. We've been going for high tech ever since the 50s, but what people used back then is low tech. For example, we know that ancient people could produce electricity using clay jars and or adobe jars and just water, and I think it was a copper. They use copper threads, copper wires, and that's it. Well, only we don't know, we cannot understand how that worked in the past. We don't know that today. Now I want to say something about discoveries and evolution, because again we are being told, the inventors of this, the inventors of that, we've discovered this and that. We discovered nothing. And what is also interesting is that I learned this only last week, actually. The people, Graham Bell, who is supposed to have invented the telephone, actually put the label, registered his discovery at the same time as another guy. It was really amazing, also in the US and also in the New York area. None of the two guys knew the other existed or what they did. And within 2 hours, they had each of them deposited the same and registered the same discovery. It's
it.
really, really amazing. Yeah, yeah, certainly, Mandy. Probably I haven't been to Scotland yet, but and I will go there or die trying, certainly one day. But yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Now, I want to say about discoveries, for example. Now,
Yeah.
we are told that discoveries are progress. Now, let me give you a few examples. Everywhere in the world at the same time, I'm going to give you a list of all the things that were discovered simultaneously, that supposedly discovered simultaneously on the whole planet, in places, for example, at the same time in Southern America and in China, for example, or in Australia and in Greenland at the same time. Agriculture was discovered, archery, architecture, astronomy, wheat, beer, wine, fire, corn, sailing, sweet potatoes, pottery, raised stones, pyramids, religion, the wheel, sorghum, the swastika, weaving, transport and or the wheel. The cows were discovered, and the faculties of milk and what good milk could bring to humans. Basketry and various early arts and crafts, electricity, radio, rice, telephone, television, computing. This was all discovered through time at the same time in different places. Now, only one was quoted, like Graham Bell for the telephone, but in fact, we know now that all these actually came into existence and into the knowledge of man at the same time. I was a kid and I was at school, and I thought this is really amazing, because we're here listening to my teacher, for example, history teacher, who is telling me that they were making fire in some island off Cape Horn, for
Yeah.
example, at the same time as in Greenland, and in the same way, and the same in some cave in France. And I thought, this is not possible. It does not hold water. It doesn't make sense. Now they say, oh yes, but all when we look at planet Earth, and we're only beginning to realize that actually everything on this planet in our solar system is actually designed to be complementary one to the other. We know that the insects are there for one reason and they feed the birds, and the birds are there for another. Everything holds together and works together. This is not mere chance. There is some clever design behind all that. And that, in fact, I never like killing animals. I'm a vegetarian, for the people who have already heard me say it. And I never like this, and I'm very, very careful, because what bird feeds of that plant is going to to sow the seed of that plant somewhere, or fertilize that plant with another plant or another thing that's going to, for example, feed that kind of snake or of bovine or ovine or whoever, whatever, and then humans or fish or whatever. Everything holds water and works together. And it is the same with our climate. It is the same with everything. This is really, really amazing. There has to have been some clever design. This is not evolution. Somebody was there doing the hard work, the engineering work already back then. Now, we have been told a lot, there's a lot of scientists, for example, who told, oh yes, there is panspermia, i.e. the fact that Earth was seeded from space, with all these things, etc. It doesn't work. It's like the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is perfect if we are human. But if you're an alien who lives on a dark, cold planet or under or in the sun, like the intersolars, it doesn't apply to you. And yet it works and is complementary to the rest. Now, we are told, for example, that somebody, coming back to discoveries, for example, we are told that we discovered this and that. Let me give you another example. Cassava is a starch plant. And this plant, if we were to pick it up and eat it, we would die of very violent poisoning. Now, this plant has fed hundreds of millions of people all over the planet. Now, only to be edible, we have to understand that, A, it has to be washed. It has to be washed again. It has to be left to rot, then washed again, then cooked in a certain way, etc. This does not happen by chance. It's not trial and error. Nobody just went, there's not some brute who came out of a cave one day and said, I'm going to come out, for example, to give you other examples. Today I think I'm going to make clothes, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to pick up stinging nettles, because what I need is really stinging nettles out of all the plethora of plants that were around him at the time, right? He just went straight in a beeline for that one. And he said, okay, now I have to dry it. I have to comb it. I have to use it in certain way, with it in certain way, and then after that, this will enable me to weave that particular plant into that particular kind of weaving pattern, so that we can have some kind of fabric and make clothes. And there, your Zandra Rhodes and Vivienne Westwood's forefathers were born. No, it didn't happen like this. Somebody had to tell them. It's like some guy or a woman, as a matter of fact, didn't come out of a cave one day and say, oh, look, if I took that stone and I rub it against a piece of wood or again against another stone like this, I'm going to make fire and it's going to be good, because now I can cook Irish stew, for example. It didn't work. It didn't happen like that. It does not make sense. All it takes is two brain cells and rub them together to understand that it doesn't make sense. And we know that some people, for example, Leonardo da Vinci, saw things in his dreams. This is how he did his first design, for example, which was of a snake. Now, the interesting thing is that the people responsible for the creation of man are reptilians, so they were snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first thing he designed was a snake. This is really, really amazing. Why was he inspired to draw a snake and nothing else, when the snakes and the reptilians were creators of mankind? We know that, for example, Dmitry Mendeleev saw his table of elements in a dream. He saw every element in the table in the right place. And there were two elements he was not given through that dream, but he knew where they were going to go. He left two spaces in the table, in the middle of the table, for those two elements, which we have been able to place ever since. That was in the 19th century. And there are lots of people like this. Mozart, for example, wrote music, just like this. He never had roughs. He never made corrections. He just wrote as he thought. And this is exactly how we can understand, if we go into that, we did not progress. We did not learned to make beer and to know that beer was good because it feeds, it's good for the stomach, for the digestion. It is good food for the human body. It's full of proteins and lots of things and good things. The same with cheese. You know, some guy didn't wake up one morning in Africa or somewhere and say, oh, I'm going to milk this animal, and with the cheese, with the milk, if I keep it at that temperature in those conditions for so long, I'm going to have a good cheese and then I can eat it. No, it did. Or make bread, for example, even that. It did not happen like this. And again, we know that some things we still don't understand. For example, on a beach in Costa Rica, so we're in Central America, there are stone spheres there, which are bigger than a man. Some of them are 3 meters. That's 9 feet in diameters, and they're perfect spheres in stones. And they come in different sizes, all in the same stones. Only nobody know what they were there for. And the same stones, exactly the same stones, were found on the other side of the world in southern New Zealand on a beach again.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who did that or why or how.
There's theories, and it comes to actually a question that Mark has actually said about ley lines and pyramids. Do you think pyramids are built on ley lines? Now, actually, I read a bit of an article about them spears, and they were saying that there were Earth's chakras, but it were a theory, obviously.
There is, I have heard that theory many times and from many people's and many horses' mouths also. It's the theory that this and that and the other. We have to think we are living in a quantum creation, not universe. All the other universes are quantum as well. They all work together. They all interact. Everything is energy, energy chakras, energy portals. We have a lot of chakras, for example, in our body. Some people will tell you there are 7 chakras all along down from the top of our head to the bottom of our spine, but we have some in our hands. Energy is everywhere. This is how I do energy healing. By the way, if you need energy healing or any sort of healing, you can still contact me. This is my commercial break.
Well, people that's also has highly recommended you for that as well, Jesse. So yeah.
I've had some people call me already, and we've done some great work together with some of them. They can come and share their experience if they like. I know some of them are listening. And but anyway, so this is just to show, yes, there are many, many theories. We are coming back to the idea of clothes, for example. Why did somebody suddenly decide to make clothes? Man was quite happy to go about, just barely with a bare hide on his back, etc. He didn't need to have mini skirts or Vidal Sassoon or people like this. We didn't need that. And in fact, to be honest, my belief, and I see that every day. I'm comforted in this belief every day, that man left to his own devices wouldn't have invented the wheel, because the basic man, all he needs is to be safe, to sleep and eat. Basically, that's all we need. We don't need telephones to survive. We don't need televisions. We don't need cars. We don't need planes. We don't need mathematics. We don't need history. We don't need literature, come to think of that. And in fact, man had been living like that for millions of years before we invented the telephone. And not that they were the less happy for it. So this is it.
I agree. Big up the naturists. If they want to walk around with no clothes on, fair enough to them.
Some people are actually, maybe some of you saw the programs with, what was his name, Bear Grylls, living, surviving in nature. I can't remember what the title of the program was or the name of the program was. But, this guy, he was an army coach originally, coaching soldiers to survive in hostile or difficult environments when they had lost everything, for example, or they were lost owing to war or whatever. And but I want to talk also about turning history backwards. Now, we realize that, and it is something I have always known, and I was really happy to hear somebody else who is an engineer talk about this, no less than Robert Schoch, who is an Oxford Don, I think. And he said that we have now found out, experiments have been carried out, I think it was also in Oxford, to show that the future can actually influence the past, which makes sense. It's not only the past that influences the present or the future, but the future also influences the past in such a way that when we, in a quantum world, there is no past and no future. Everything is in the present, in the now, if you like. And when we do, for example, I do reading, when people ask me to do readings for them about their future or this or that, originally I didn't like to do it because I thought, oh, if I tell people, we know we can influence them, and I didn't want to do that. But eventually I realized, I thought, no, it is just everywhere, and it is readily available for anybody who has developed their psychic abilities. And it is really amazing, and we've got that everywhere. Now we can turn history back. Now we know, for example, that the Nazis apparently had been to the moon long before America had been there. And the guy who was the first, logically more or less the creator of NASA, actually in the US, was Werner von Braun. Now Werner von Braun was the German engineer who designed and built the V1s and V2s that reigned over London, for example, during the war. And not over London only, but and this guy, he suddenly was picked up by Americans, taken to the States, and then NASA was born, and he knew everything about going up in the air, the state, etc., when we could barely fly at the time more than a couple of hours on a plane, and then we were flying up to the moon in a few days. So this is just to show that this is not new. We are not progressing. And in fact, they had a few problems even with their, but not only the Americans, the Russians too, had a few problems with their rockets. We have places, for example, like Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is really amazing. It is so advanced and so ancient, we can barely date it. It has been dated 9,000 years old so far. We cannot understand. And maybe, Philip, you can find us, if you don't mind, a picture of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Excuse me. You will
Can
find.
you do me a favour, because I am rubbish at spelling? Can you just send me
G-O,
that name?
yeah, it's G-O. Oh, maybe I can type it there. Wait a minute. G-O-B-E. I think that's how it is spelled. It is in Turkey.
Ah.
If you can find a picture of that.
Yep.
For us.
I mean, I've been always thinking this, but do you think that somewhere online, some beings from past has gone in future and known that we are actually, as humans, is going to be part of destruction of the planet, to the point that they've probably gone back in time and disturb us from actually finding out this information?
Oh, we are, and I'm going to prove it. Not tonight, but tonight I'm going to give you a few examples. But you will see. Have you?
Ah, yeah, I've just seen your thing. I'm
Right. Yeah. If you can find us a picture of the place, I will show you something again, like we did in the Machu Picchu a moment ago, for example.
I think that's it.
The internet is one proof that we are not progressing because it works less and less, and it's worse and worse. The same goes for the telephone. Telephone lines are really shocking now. They're so bad, it's embarrassing. They're just abysmal. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Philip. Can we just hold it there for a moment?
Yeah.
Everybody, if you look at the standing stones that are there, which are really, really old, and in between those standing stones, there are modern bricks put there.
Yeah.
Okay, those bricks between the standing stones were not there originally. They were put afterwards in an attempt to do something with the place. Okay,
Mm.
so those standing stones, and I mean, if we could just maybe enlarge the picture a little, you could see the artwork on them is really amazing. I'm not sure this is the best picture, Philip, but maybe we can. Yeah, can you see the animal there at the top of that one? There is a kind of dog there. Yeah, thank you, Philip. Now, this is really very, very refined work. And the people who came after that, they did bad walls like the ones you can see in the back there. This is not even proper masonry if you by today's standards. And those people, they could design really amazing things. I have exactly the same examples with pyramids, for example. We talked about stepped pyramids. And they say, oh yes, these were the original pyramids, and the modern pyramids were really perfect, like the one at Giza, for example. In actual fact, this is completely wrong. The one at Giza is the oldest ones, and the other ones, the step pyramids and the other pyramids, were an attempt to build good pyramids like the ones on the Giza plateau in Egypt, for example. Only the trade and the skill had been lost in time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at something that Peter says. The impressive architecture really is exploded into being at a time after when many centuries it was mostly just low level stuff. The pyramid, besides architecture and its scale, is worth some study.
People who are my generation or older will probably remember, I think it was in Manchester, but if it was not Manchester, it was probably Birmingham, but that area of England, they built in the early 80s a brand new cathedral. Now, the cathedral collapsed within weeks of being built. I don't think it was even finished. Can you think, and when you have those pyramids who've been there for dozens of thousands of years, and they're barely marked in age, and we cannot build a cathedral today, or a minster, whatever you may call it. This is really amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's one part of it. Now, politics is the same. We are not progressing. We are being made feel guilty. Oh, we've been abusing the planet, abusing everything, all the resources, etc. Which man has been. I agree to that. There's no question about that. And this is how we are getting global warming, etc. No, global warming was there.
Mm.
We did nothing to make it better, but it was there. There were times in the past, we know that the earth, for example, froze right over a couple of times and boiled right over a couple of times, just like the sun. And then with time it changed, and it went from freezing to cooking and baking and etc. And there was Al Gore, for example, who is famous for going around the planet and giving talks, and he made himself a fortune telling everybody and lecturing everybody how we should be careful with the environment, with pollution, this and that. Al Gore, before he was famous, he was actually the advisor to American President Bill Clinton at the Kyoto meeting for climate change, and he advised Clinton not to sign the agreement. Then he went on to give lectures on the opposite and make himself a fortune with it. This is
Crazy.
politics. Another thing we have, which is not progress, is programmed obsolescence. Now, what is programmed obsolescence, for people who may not have heard of it yet, is our computers, our telephones are just programmed to die. So when we buy a new smartphone, for example, today, we're lucky if we use it for more than 3 years. Because the more modern your telephone, the shorter its lifespan. It is designed to die. And the more, people are going to hate me for this, some people are, the more you update the programs on your computers and your smartphones, the faster they die on you.
Yeah.
Because the new programs are actually designed to make your computer age and die earlier than it would have
Mm.
left to
Yeah.
its own devices. And this is
Well,
called programmed obsolescence. And this is just a marketing design.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, proof in pudding. You could get a laptop today, and in about 2 years' time, it'll be slow as heck, and that's
it could,
because they'll keep on giving you services and updates, and then it ends up where you think, "Oh gosh, I need another laptop."
yeah, and you're lucky if you've been able to use it for 2 years without the slightest problems. I like my own computers, my old, sorry, computers. This is the ones I use most. My computer I work on is 15 years old. It's an old Mac, but it works still well. I mean, it needed attention here and there, but at least it's working. Now buy a computer, buy a Mac today, and you're lucky if you can keep it for 2 years.
No, yeah, that is true. That is true. It's getting to the point as well now. I've actually noticed that certain software that were free, you've got to buy now over little services you've got to buy to make it run right. And it's like, yeah, they're slowly just breaking
And
it down.
the more you pay for them, the more you have to pay for them because they tell you, for example, WhatsApp now, if you don't update WhatsApp, it will not work.
Mm,
You cannot use the old version. You have to have the newest version. And if you don't have the newest version, and the newest version will only be, you'll only be able to install the newest version on WhatsApp on the latest smartphones. It will not work on old smartphones.
yeah.
This is all to make us spend and to just force us into being what we're not supposed to be or what we cannot
Yes,
do or don't want to do.
Jesse, I've got my dad, which is very prehistoric, right?
Let's,
He loves his Sony Ericsson phone, which is not a smartphone. He always says, look, you can text people, you can phone people. It's good enough for me. Guess
exactly.
what? It's obsolete though. Now you can't use it.
Mhm.
He had to be forced to use a smartphone, and now it's hell on earth for me to try and learn him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can understand for some people it's really, really hard. Over
Mm,
here in France, they're trying to have everything done online. The only trouble is France is much bigger than the UK,
mm,
and a lot of places are simply not equipped with technical connections or physical connection. The Wi-Fi will not work. Cables doesn't reach those parts, in the mountains, in villages, and etc. Probably the same in places like Scotland, for example, or
yeah,
places like that because they're really, really remote and it doesn't pay off for the operator to install the line because they're just going to be losing money on
mm,
installing that line. Because what happens is operators actually install lines in places where they know they will get their money back through people subscribing to their offer. If people don't subscribe, they don't get their money back. So they've lost all their money and their investment. So of course, in all places where you have, in one horse towns and places like that, and backwater places, they just won't give you a phone connection today or a fiber connection because it doesn't pay off for them.
mm,
This is progress. This is what we call progress. And over here, we're supposed to do everything online. Now, if we're going to do, for example, all the red tape we have to do online, the only problem is, okay, I can do the things online, but their website don't work. And when you tell them they don't work, they tell you, oh no, it's because you can't use it. I'm sorry, but I'm quite computer literate, and I can tell you your website is not working. But they won't take no for an answer. And when you actually go there, I mean, they're so badly designed that it's impossible to make heads or tails of what they want you to do. But the other thing is, I say, okay, for example, the tax offices and places, they want you to declare your tax online. Okay, but why are you recruiting more and more staff all the time and charging me with more taxes because you're employing more people when I'm supposed to do that job? I should get a
yeah,
discount.
yeah,
This is progress today. This is actually what progress is. I say, okay, I have to do my own tax form online. Fine, but fire a few of your people. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad sense, but you don't need your staff if we're doing that job. So why are you paying them? Why are you keeping them? Why are you recruiting more people? And why are my taxes going up all the time when I do your job? It
yeah.
doesn't make sense. This is not progress. It's a lie.
Yeah, because initially we are going to be his own secretaries, aren't we? Every bill, everything's got to be done by ourselves
Yeah, yeah.
online. I get you, but there is a spanner in works when it comes to all this. It only takes a solar flare from to hit us satellites and his electric grid, and we're doomed.
Exactly. One flaw, one little glitch in the matrix, and no, and everything tumbles down in a heap.
Mm,
We've had this actually, Philip. You and I and John have had this on two of our shows together ever since we started our shows. We had to give up. Remember that and do
yeah,
this another time because some solar flare or some clever guy did something somewhere with the satellite or we don't know. But anyway, this is not progress. We are supposed to have things that work better and better all the time. They don't.
Mm.
They don't. But they are just tying us, our hands and our feet, and we have to obey, we have to follow, we have to buy this and not that. We have no choice. This is not progress. We should have more and more choice all the time, and more and things that work better and better all the time. That would be progress.
Well, I tell you what's progress, and it's not progress to some, is these civilizations that live by themselves, perfectly happy, that lives at 100 and odd.
Yeah, maybe that would be rather than evolution, where we're going through devolution at the moment. We've been going through that for the past, at least the 50s, ever since the war, World War II, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we have some comments or some questions there, Philip, or people who want to share something with us. I cannot see any of the comments from here now.
Basically, only one I can actually see down at the bottom is from Earth doesn't have to come from space. The electricity grid destruction.
Exactly, Peter. Yeah.
Annette's basically said, consume, consume, consume. That's all we are taught to do.
That's exactly, Annette. But this is precisely what I do not do. I recycle. I buy from secondhand shops all the time. People who thought I was really well dressed and chic and elegant and etc. Well, I buy everything I can. Not everything, because not everything is available, or for clothes, for example, not necessarily my style or my size. But everything I can buy, recycle. When I have too much of one thing or something I don't use, I share or exchange or give. I do a lot of this, and it's not because I need the money that badly. It's because I don't believe in polluting, in hoarding things, in buying all the latest new things, etc. I want to buy myself a pair of sports shoes. We had oh gosh, what is it called again? Those the sales, people do off the back of their cars, bonnet sales.
Car boot sales. Yeah.
We had one over here last weekend. I went there. I bought a pair of shoes. I mean, that pair of shoes is like 300 or 400 euro. I got it for 10.
Yeah.
The guy who bought that pair of shoes hardly wore it, because I could see under the shoes, on the sole of the shoes, that it had maybe he wore it once, if that. They looked like brand new, and I got them for 10 euro.
Yeah, I think it is way forward, especially how it is, especially the economy and where we live in. I think we do need to go down roads of trying to save money that way.
This is really shocking. My nephew in Tehran, he was 14. He came home to his mother one day, so my sister-in-law, and he said, "Mom, I need a smartphone." Most kids in Iran don't have a smartphone. It's not like over here where all the kids have a smartphone sometimes, except my niece, so his cousin, who was 1 year old. Imagine, 1 year old, and she could use our mother's smartphone. And her mother was really proud. I said, no, you shouldn't be proud that she can use a smartphone. There are many things a kid 1 year old should do before using a smartphone. And so my nephew, her cousin, he was 14. He said, "Mom, I need a smartphone." And his mother is a bit tight with money. And she said, she's a bit tight-fisted with her money. She has money, but she doesn't like spending. And so she said, "No, Aras, you're not going to get a smartphone. You don't need one." And he actually broke into a fit. And I felt really sorry for him. He started crying, etc. "But Mom, I want a smartphone." I said, "Aras, you don't need a smartphone. You haven't used one so far. Why would you need one? You're always at home and you're not at school. So why would you need a smartphone? And at home, he has a console, he has games, he has television, he has everything he needs." So I said, "What would you do with a smartphone that you haven't done so far?" But this is just I think it was Annette was saying that consume, buy, spend, all the time with new things we don't need. We don't need.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And this is called progress. Yeah,
got one from Peter again. The touring shroud, fake or real? It has it has pollen and dust in its fibers going back to Bible times. So the fake calls, isn't it too solid?
Apparently, it is, and it isn't. Now, there have been countless expertise, scientific tests, and you name it, done on the poor old shroud. And the woman, it was a woman, a scientist, a British woman, who is a historian, I think. I can't remember her name now because I saw that more than 20 years ago. She actually sussed out through all her work and studies and you name it, that in fact it is not a fake in the sense that it is really the shroud of a man who suffered and died and was actually wrapped up in that shroud. Only it was not Jesus. It's supposed to be Jesus. It was apparently Jacques de Molay. Now, Jacques de Molay was the leader of the Templar Knights, and he was burnt at the stake by a French king of the time, Philip IV, I think it was, and he had him burnt at the stake after torturing. And while he was being tortured, he was wrapped into that piece of linen. I think it is linen or cotton, either cotton or linen. And in fact, the body reaction to the torture produced a kind of acid which actually burnt his picture, as it were, to the fabric. That's as best as we know today, but it's not Jesus Christ. No, it's sorry for the believers. Maybe it's bad news to you, but it shouldn't change anything in your faith if you're faithful. But what I mean is the actual artifact, as it were, of the shroud was not done with the body of Jesus or in the Jesus's time. It was done 1,000 years later.
Yeah. I think we'll probably have this for last question. What Mark's done. What do you think about solar panels next to the moon for the substantial energy? Now, there's a reason why I put this one as well, Jesse, because I'm a bit confused. We've been to the moon once, never again. Not yet so far, unless we've not been told. And I want to know the reason why, because people's been landed on the moon, which technology were more or less like a tin can. And today we don't seem to be doing much at all with moon. So,
well, you're breaking through a big debate there, Philip, which has nothing to do with the subject, but I will give you the information I have anyway. NASA, subtitle "Going Nowhere Fast," I think, by the people who don't agree with NASA, but and I'm one of them. They went to the moon, but the moon landings we saw are not the actual moon landings. They were shot in a studio. We can prove it now. There is lots of proofs of all this, the landscape, the technical, etc., you name it. The fact that the moon has one dark side and one light side. Yes, the light goes all around the moon anyway. The rest is just science fiction. But you can find all this on YouTube and, decide which one you want to take and follow and believe. But no, we didn't go. I mean, Americans did not go to the moon. Some actual astronauts, American astronauts, actually confessed to this and actually said it when they retired and before they died, that they had actually not been to the moon. But there have been exhibitions to the moon done by the Americans, and not only. And there are people actually living and working on and in the moon who are aliens. And some humans have been there, but not the ones not the moon expeditions. We have not all the Apollo and you name it, or Salyut or Soyuz, for example, for the Russians. No, there were other exhibitions which are actually held secret, which actually did not apparently take off from Cape Canaveral in Florida, but from somewhere in California, so the other side of the US. And a lot of missions that were not reported, that have not been explained or showed, etc., because there were other interests at hand. It's like what is going on, for example, in Area 51 in the US. A lot of things, there are also so-called debunkers. Now, the debunkers are people who do not debunk anything, but they are just paid by government and such organizations to say, "Oh no, you have to show that these people are liars and etc. because we cannot let the general public know about this or that." We should know. We want the truth. We're not stupid. We're not afraid. We're just being kept under pressure by fear management and the New World Order and all those people. But, we're grown ups. We can take the news. We want to know. It's the same. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. We know now, for example, that the Holocaust did not happen. There are proofs. They could not burn in the camp 6 million Jews. I'm not saying, I'm sorry for all the people who died there, of course, and everything that happened, but it was not in the measures or numbers or quantities. We know that the doors, for example, for the gas chambers were not sealed. So if the people who worked, for example, who took people, the Nazis working in camps, who took Jews, and not only Jews, because they also killed homosexuals, they also killed gypsies, and anybody who didn't agree with them, we say the Jews, but the Jews were only the tip of the iceberg, as it were.
Yeah.
And but they would have died, because they would have been gassed. Even the people outside the chambers, people locking the doors and etc. And I remember many years ago, I read a book that I had not read before, and I thought, oh, I should read this book because I've been meaning to read it for like 30 years. This book is by an Italian author who died a long time ago called Primo Levi. Now, Primo Levi wrote a book, I think it was the only one or the first one published, but long after he wrote it. This guy, he actually was I think he was in Auschwitz, in one of those big camps for 3 years. And he was the dog's body, Girl Fridaying for all the Germans, Nazis, getting food, getting clothes, etc. So he was going in all areas of the camp, which was really big, at all times. He spoke Italian because he was an Italian. He spoke Hebrew because he's a Jew, and he also spoke Hebrew. He spoke French. He spoke German. So he talked to a lot of prisoners from everywhere. He never talked about all those gassing and everything. And he was there all the time, and he was there near the chambers. And he never talked about it in his book. And when I read the book, so that was a long time after the Holocaust business came out. When I read the book, I thought, yeah, this is really funny. He never talks about this, like it did not exist, yet he was there all the time. And he was there for 3 years. I had an Italian colleague when I was a student. His parents met in a camp in Auschwitz. And his mother is actually Polish. She was in the camp as a prisoner, and his father was a prisoner in the camp. They actually met, and of course, she didn't speak Italian, and his father didn't speak Polish. So they spoke German, and they spoke German for many years because they came back and they got married and they went to live in Italy. So she had to learn Italian, and because she didn't speak Italian, they continued speaking German for a long time. And it was the same. They never heard about these things, and they were there in the camp all the time. And of course, word was going round, and especially Primo Levi, because he was attending all the barracks, all the people, all the time. He was toing and froing, doing this, that, or the other, taking food, giving medicine to people, taking clothes, washing clothes for people. He was everywhere in the camp. He never spoke one word about all this. And now and the guy who did this is actually a British guy. He took some pictures that were recorded by the RAF, I think, where he saw one of the British RAF planes actually flew over the camp while the camp was in operation. And he thought, this is strange. The chimneys are wrong. They couldn't burn people. And then he started going into all the files of the German files, because the German files kept track of everything. Every single bottle of gas they bought was recorded. And he said, no, this is not possible. 6.5 million people could not have died there because the facilities just weren't there. 10% of that at most could have been burned there. So there is a big lie there somewhere, and we're being manipulated. Fear management again. It's all fear management.
Yeah.
It's really sorry. We would like to know where the people went, what happened to them. People, I mean, I had nobody who died in Auschwitz or in the camps, although my grandmother and her family were Jews, but they never died in those camps. But I mean, for the people who had parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents who died there, I'm sure they would love to know the truth. They don't want to be told the tale. They want to know the truth, what really actually happened to those people, to their family. And the people who come and witness, because there were still until recently actually people who had been in those camps who actually came on televisions in program. I knew one of them who's actually a war hero. He was a Jew from Łódź in Poland. And he was taken to the camp. He escaped from the camp, and he explained all that. I mean, even Martin Gray, for example, who went to Auschwitz twice, escaped from Auschwitz. He never said anything about that, and he had seen everything in the camp. So why don't those people who were there talk about it?
Yeah, well, they shouldn't they? Yeah.
It didn't happen. They would have known. They would have talked about it. Martin Gray wrote countless books, and he gave countless conferences about what happened in the camps. He never mentioned anything like this.
Yeah. As Mark were explaining, right, he goes, this has gone a bit tits up. I was talking about the moon. It's all relevant, because what it is we're supposed to be progressing, and we're not.
And progress comes with information. And information, I was a communications coach for many years, and people told me, oh yes, I do this, I do this, I do that. And sometimes I would tell them, no, you don't need to do that, or you don't want to say that, or you don't want to say that. And they said, Jesse, but if I don't say it, etc. And I said, listen to me. Communication is as much what you don't say as what you do say. And this is how, for example, advertising works, politics work like this. What they do not tell you, or what they tell you that is wrong, this is all about communication and progress. We progress with information. And when we're not given information, or we're not given the right information, we cannot progress. There are people there who cannot get over the loss of their parents, for example, in Auschwitz, because they think they died like this. And because they cannot get over this, they have a post-traumatic syndrome,
Yeah.
that they cannot move on with their own life, because they're obsessed with what happened with their parents, their father, their people who lost a sister, because, for example, this man was sent to that camp and his sister was sent to another one. They lost track of one another. We have stories like this of actual twins who met. One, after the war, he actually lived in Poland because they were Polish Jews. And the other one, he suddenly realized he had a twin brother who was living in New York. Okay, and then he didn't remember, because they had been separated. They were kids when they were sent to Auschwitz and places like this. They were sent to two different camps because they were not with the same people at the same place at the same time. So yes, this is also part of this. Yeah, this is about the lie, manipulation, and not progressing. Yes, it is.
Definitely. Right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Jesse, yet again.
Everyone,
it's about time now, and I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to myself and Jesse. Hopefully there's going to be another one in pipeline, Jesse.
We're going to have another show soon, Philip.
Yes, definitely.
I'm preparing a few things. I will tell you offline in a couple of days, because I'm having people all over the house at the moment. Like, I don't have a moment for myself. So, but I have a few things I will come up with. Yes. Come up with. I mean, I have come up with them, because I'm in the writing process is almost finished with them. I have. See, you haven't heard the last of me. Don't worry, guys. Things up my sleeve somewhere, and more are coming all the time. I actually have more and more aliens coming and teaching me new things now about the brain. We had two shows about the brain, one a couple of weeks ago and one a couple of months ago, the first part. And boy, have I got news for you. Long list. We'll certainly be talking again. Yeah.
Smash.
Thanks for being with us, everyone. Now, and people who will be watching the replay. we always enjoy sharing all this together, and listening to you when you have experience to share. It's always important, either online or offline. Actually, I have people contacting me saying, "Oh, Jesse, when you talked about this, I could have said that." I said, "Come on, say it." But, get it off your chest, as it were. So
Smash.
always happy to be there. Thank you, Philip, for having us tonight.
Yes, definitely. And everyone who's watching, I will see you later. Bye.
Cheerio, everyone. Bye bye. Stay tuned for more. Bye for now.